What's up, guys? Today I'm talking about the two New York teams, the Giants and the Jets, and what they accomplished and didn't accomplish in the draft. To start off, these teams have never really been in more different positions, at least not in this century. I mean, the Giants are a team that needs basically everything. They're rebuilding. They have a quarterback, but the fans don't really like him. They don't really know where they stand on him. There's a lot of people saying they might even go for a quarterback in that first round. The Jets, on the other hand, have a lot of the big pieces of their offense and especially their defense, but they need those last couple pushes, those last couple pieces of the puzzle in order to make a real championship run. Now, the Giants started off the draft by picking Neighbors. Neighbors is a very good wide receiver, very athletic. Malik Neighbors is a game changer for the Giants, and especially for Daniel Jones, a quarterback who has been getting the excuse of, oh, he doesn't have the weapons he needs. He doesn't have a good tight end, and he got a good tight end last year. He still doesn't have good wide receivers. Now he has a few on his team. Some guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, who developed last year, a more traditional older guy, Darius Slayton, who plays a very normal wide receiver role, and now they have a game-changing wide receiver in Malik Neighbors, first round. Great pick. Second pick was Tyler Nubin, a safety, and who's a guy who's definitely going to make an impact on day one for the Giants. They had some of the worst defensive back player in the NFL last year, and a lot of their defensive back play relies on these young rookies who don't have so much experience to help them through. Now, Tyler Nubin doesn't really add experience. Obviously, he's going to be a rookie now. He doesn't have as much experience even at the college level, but what Tyler Nubin does have is the athletic traits of a good, strong safety in the NFL. He's going to make an impact for them. On the other hand, Andrew Phillips, next round, third round, pick number 6, he's a little more of a risky choice. I mean, I think the Giants may have wanted to go for a cornerback in that second round. Guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cooper DeJean, Melton, three guys, some of the better quarterbacks in this draft went in the few picks right before the Giants. And I think to kind of recoup and cover for the loss of getting one of those guys, they went for Andrew Phillips in the third round. Now, Andrew Phillips, to me, he's an okay cornerback. I don't know how much he's going to change the game for the Giants. For one, the Giants already have quite a few young cornerbacks, and those guys are expected to make big jumps, guys who developed really towards the end of last season. We saw almost all of those young cornerbacks who played in the last game of the season against the Eagles, a very good offense, take a big step forward. So Andrew Phillips is going to go into a very crowded room, but for the Giants, they're hoping that he has a lot of upside and can become a real star on that defense. Then they went with what to me was the most confusing pick of the night. Noon on day 3, and that was Theo Johnson. To me, the Giants don't need a tight end like Theo Johnson. He's a patch-catching tight end, and last year they got this guy named Darren Waller, who has been, when he's good and healthy, probably the best pass-catching tight end of the year. Now, last year, Darren Waller was not looking good, and in my opinion, that's more of an issue to do with their quarterback play and not having the best coaching. They changed coordinators going into this upcoming season. I think things like that are putting a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones and this offense to work. Theo Johnson, I just think it was a wasted pick. In the fourth round, this team could have had plenty of starting level players. And I wrote down a few here. Javon Foster, Tanner Bortolini, two guys who would have, in my opinion, started on their O-line. They also could have gotten Javon Baker, who's a wide receiver, went a few picks later to the Patriots, would have made a day one impact for this team. And I could go on with more names. In the fifth round, with the 31st pick, they made what to me was a very solid decision, getting Tyron Tracy Jr. He is a very kind of multifaceted, multi-talented type running back. And what to me is the best thing about his game is he could play a lot of slot. He used to be a wide receiver, so you could have him use a lot of end arounds, have a lot of traditional running motions, but also have him play in the slot, give him some option routes, give Daniel Jones another better receiver, a guy who could play both as a running back and a wide receiver. I think that was a great pick. And to end off the draft, they went with Darius Muasa. Now, Muasa, he's not really going to be the biggest impact player for the Giants, but he is a good special teams player, and that's what he's projected to be for the Giants. He's a linebacker. And they don't have the best linebacker room, but they don't have a terrible linebacker room either. So getting another guy who can play special teams can make a big difference for them. Now let's move on to the Jets. The Jets, with their first pick, went with Olu Fashanu. Now, Fashanu is a very good tackle. The best thing I like about this pick is he's going to be able to sit behind two of the better tackles the Jets have had in the last 4 or 5 years with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. He's going to be able to sit behind them in year one. Now, I imagine he's going to play about 4 or 5 games. Tyron Smith does get injured. Morgan Moses is 33, so there's a lot of risk of those guys getting injured. And in that case, having a rookie play 3 or 4 games is never a terrible decision. Usually, rookies in the first round of tackle, they don't really develop until their second or third year, but they're going to be at least passable, in my opinion. So Olu Fashanu, he's going to be a passable tackle when he plays. But to me, in 2-3 years, when we really need him to step up, that's when this pick is going to make all the difference. And next, we got Malachi Corley in the 3rd round. So we actually didn't have a 2nd round pick. It looked at different times that we were going to try to trade up for Corley, and later we found out the Jets did try to trade up for Corley, and maybe even for other receivers too in that 2nd round. Luckily enough for the Jets, Corley happened to sneak through the entire 2nd round, and the Jets got him right off the bat in the 3rd round. To me, this is a great pick. Because Malachi Corley is a guy who's very shifty, kind of similar to Tyrone Tracy Jr., except more of a traditional wide receiver. And to me, when you're looking at the passing game for the Jets, they have Mike Williams, they have Garrett Wilson, who play different roles as wide receivers. To me, getting Malachi Corley is the best decision in terms of value, at least, that the Jets made the entire night. I mean, let's be clear. The Jets have good receivers, but they don't have depth. Now, when you look at their weapons on that team, you have Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams doing a lot of your traditional wide receiver things. You have Breece Hall, who's proven, especially towards the end of last season, that he can be a pass-catching running back. And then you have Tyler Conklin, who's been a very consistent part of that offense, despite having terrible quarterback play the last 2 years. Now, when I look at a guy like Malachi Corley, he adds the last thing we need. A very shifty slot receiver guy who we haven't really had since Elijah Moore and Braxton Berrios. Last year, we didn't really have a traditional slot receiver. Corley is that guy, and he projects to be very good at that. He's getting a lot of comparisons to Deebo Samuel. I don't want to, make those comparisons myself because there's only one Deebo Samuel. But if he's anything close to Deebo Samuel in terms of skill and play style, the Jets have found a true gem in the 3rd round. Now, after that, in the 4th round, they made one pick in the 34th pick of that 4th round with Braylon Allen. Running back was a big need. You have Breece Hall on the Jets, but after him, you only really had Izzy Abanikanda in terms of guys who you want to make that final roster. So getting Braylon Allen made a lot of sense. The one thing he does way better than Izzy Abanikanda guaranteed right off the bat is pass blocking, and the Jets need pass blocking. Braylon Allen has proven himself through college to be not only willing but very skilled at blocking. So to me, this seemed like a very good pick at the time. We'll get into a little bit later though why I'm a little bit less of a fan of this pick now. And that's because 2 picks later we got another running back. But first to stop at pick number 36 of the 5th round, where we got Jordan Travis, a quarterback. Just like Fashanu, where he doesn't have all the stress on him on day one, Travis gets to sit on the bench behind Tyrod Taylor and Aaron Rodgers, 2 guys who played a lot of football. Aaron Rodgers is a guy who's won a Super Bowl, right? So very good quarterbacks he's going to be able to sit behind. A lot of people project Jordan Travis to maybe start some games next year, and perhaps be the starter for the Jets in about 3 years. Now, for the Jets, it's a little bit unclear how much they value Travis in terms of being a starter one day. But at the very least, you're getting a 3rd quarterback to add to your room, a guy who, has a lot of upside. The main reason he fell was because of an injury, so the Jets are banking that the injury doesn't really impact him too much moving forward. And outside of that injury, he did look like a top 5, definitely a top 10 quarterback in college football last year. Now is the pick that kind of made me a little bit curious about why the Jets are making the decisions they're making, and that's with Isaiah Davis. Isaiah Davis is a running back who basically projects to be the same type of play style, just a slightly lower quality perhaps than Braylon Allen. Now, to me, I don't like this because we do have a few other needs, like safety, that I wanted to see addressed at that pick. That being said, the one thing that makes me somewhat okay with this pick is that we may not be carrying a fullback this year. Nick Bodden has been a fullback the last few years. The Jets have never been good at using a fullback, right? We don't really use them to create too much motion. He just ends up being an extra blocker, but he's not really the best blocker on the field. So if you're bringing Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis to take the 4 running back spots and not bringing Nick Bodden, I am actually okay with this decision. We did bring 4 running backs onto our final roster last season. So if we have 4 running backs and we're able to take off Nick Bodden to make room for Jordan Travis, I see this as a very good decision. It's a little hard to tell right now because you never know at this point of the offseason where the Jets are going to go. But maybe in a few months we'll look back on this and be able to tell really if this was a good decision or not. Our second to last pick was Qantas Stiggers, just about 3 picks later at pick 41 of the 5th round. Qantas Stiggers is a guy who played in the CFL, never played a day of college. He actually was supposed to play Division II football, but his father passed away, and after that he went through a lot of things in his personal life. Worked a lot of jobs from here and there. Eventually, he played fan control football, that league that Marshawn Lynch and a few other NFL pros prior had started. And from there, he played in the CFL. That's where he got CFL Rookie of the Year. And he was the youngest player in the CFL, too. So very good to see that from this type of player because it looks to transition well to the NFL. CFL guys are usually practice squad guys at the NFL level. So we'll see if Qantas Stiggers can play a little bit better than the average CFL guy. But because he won that award, because he looked like the best defensive player in the CFL last year, it is fair to say that he's probably going to be above that practice squad level. I kind of see him as our 5th to 6th best cornerback this year. But when you realize that 4 of those top 5 cornerbacks are going to be free agents next year, coming in to this draft, getting a guy like Qantas Stiggers who might be a starter next year makes a lot of sense. Next, and with our final pick for the Jets, we have Jalen Key as safety. To me, this is an okay decision. One thing that sticks out about him is he came from Alabama, so he played some very good football. Everyone at Alabama plays good quality football. Now, Jalen Key was never really a standout there. There's a reason why he was Mr. Relevant in this year's draft, but it's an okay decision. I don't even know if he'll make the final roster, quite frankly. We'll have to see how that really turns out, but I did want a safety picked. And technically speaking, the Jets did pick a safety. So that's it for the Jets. Now let me give my final grades for both teams. The Giants, I give them a B. To me, it was a solid draft. The only real decision that kind of icked me a little bit was Theo Johnson. But when you look at the guys they passed over to get those defensive backs in round 2 and round 3, they could have definitely traded forward to get a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry or Cooper DeJean. I don't know if they didn't try to do that or if they just didn't want to and they were fine getting Tyler Nubin. But to me, it seems like they could have done a little bit more to get better picks out of this draft. Even in round 3 when they got Andrew Phillips, Cooper Beebe, and Isaiah Adams were 2 guys who were ranked very highly by a lot of the NFL prospect sites who went in the next few picks. So and those guys would have been day 1 starters on the offense as well. So to me, there was a little bit of a missed opportunity. The Giants didn't really move around with the draft as much as I would have wanted them to. But overall, it was a solid draft, which is why they're going to be. On the Jets, I give them a B+, mainly because they went with tackle in that 1st round. I was really scared they were going to go with Brock Bowers and take the kind of cooler, sexier, snappier option. But Fashanu, he makes more of an impact for the Jets. If you look through the last, 4 or 5 years of the Jets, we haven't had a tackle play the entire season. And even last year, we had Mekhi Becton play the entire season. He was the 2nd to worst tackle in the NFL. So we either haven't had good tackles play the entire season, and when they have, they've had the worst seasons of their entire career with like Becton last year. So getting a guy like Fashanu who makes an impact, especially when both of your tackles are 33 years old, to me that's a very good decision. The only decision for the Jets that really icked me a little bit was one. The fact that they got Isaiah Davis, but more so the fact that they got 2 running backs. If they had not gone Braylon Allen and instead went for Isaiah Davis, I would have been a little bit happier. But getting both of those 2 running backs seemed like a little bit of a misallocation of resources. Now, we'll see how this turns out. If they don't bring a fullback, I might be a little happy. I might see them in my head going up to an A-. But to waste a 4th and a 5th round pick on the same position for a team that had a lot of needs, to me, that's a bit of an issue. Overall, both teams, I think, did well, and both teams have a lot to look forward to this year. For the Giants, the question is, will Daniel Jones finally be able to work in that offense, right? 2 years ago, we saw them look like one of the stronger offenses in their division. I think they were 1 game away from making the playoffs. Can we see that version of the Giants again this year? And for the Jets, can they make it to the playoffs? It would be the first time since forever. I think it was 2015 with Mark Sanchez last time they made it. So can the Jets break that streak and make it to the playoffs again? Thank you. I'll see you soon.